Well, welcome readers. Thank you for coming to Swimming with Penguins and Learning Through Nature. My name is Tabitha Burring, and I have the opportunity to introduce you all to Denise Smick. Welcome readers. Thank you for coming to Swimming with Penguins and Learning. Sorry, there is a lag going on right now. And I have the opportunity. Thank you. 1 second. Technical difficulties really quickly. Well, I have the opportunity to introduce you to Denise Smick. This is her 34th year of teaching in a variety of elementary grade levels. She currently teaches a program called SAIL, which stands for Students Accelerating and Learning. SAIL is an ELA program geared for students who are able to read above grade level. The program is housed in Lakewood Elementary within the West Ottawa School District in Holland, Michigan. Being involved in the real-world application of skills is an important part of the SAIL program. Students in SAIL have partnered with the Historic Ottawa Beach Society and the Pump House Museum. Here, students have researched Big Red, Lakewood Farm, and the Ottawa Beach Historic Area. Students have also worked with the Holland Energy Park and the Board of Public Works, where they design hands-on learning activities for the community. We are all here today and so excited to listen to a real author. We look forward to applying Miss Arnold's writing advice and discussing the concepts presented in Galapagos Girl Galapagenia. I will now let Denise Smick take over to introduce today's author.
All right, thank you very much, Tabitha. It is my pleasure to introduce Marsha Diane Arnold, an award-winning picture book author. Along with Galapagos Girl, she's also written Pumpkin Runner and Lost and Found. And on top of being such a great author, she's done many school visits. She does manuscript consultations, and she also teaches writing. She currently lives in Florida, but also has lived in Kansas and California. And my students and I are so very excited and appreciate very much to be inspired by Marsha today. So thank you, Marsha.
Thank you. Good morning, Little Reed Lakeshore. I have been waiting a long time to meet you. You're choosing Galapagos Girl Galapagenia as your Little Read 2020 book is one of the most exciting things that has ever happened to any of my books. So a big Galapagos thank you to Dr. Deb Van Dynen and to Miss Tabitha, our tech expert, and Miss Denise. And let's see, you are the SAIL class, right? Yes, and I know you're going to be muted, but I love it if you wave to me or if you raise your hand if I say to, so that's going to be wonderful. So also I wanted to say that I am most grateful to Hope College and all of its partners and the National Endowment for the Arts. Thank you all. I would like to begin by asking 2 questions. I wonder who of you might be interested in swimming with sea lions in the ocean. You can raise your hand. I think everyone, just about, yeah, wonderful. Of course you would. Well, in the Galapagos Islands, which is the setting for Galapagos Girl, you can swim with sea lions and sea turtles and manta rays and even extremely cute penguins. I was lucky to be able to swim with sea lions when I visited the Galapagos, and Valentina, the real Valentina, who my character in Galapagos Girl was inspired by, swam with sea lions and penguins all of her life. She started when she was younger than you. So we'll talk about swimming with sea lions and penguins more. But my second question is, who out there, and I think I know the answer to this, who is a writer or an artist? Raise your hand. Wonderful, wonderful. I suspect everyone within the sound of my voice is in some way a writer or an artist or a storyteller, because we really all are storytellers. We are telling stories to each other all the time. And it's particularly fun when you tell a story about something that you're very excited about or you're passionate about. And I suspect that most of you have written about things that you know really well or that you're interested in. And it is the same with me. When I wrote about the Galapagos, I had been fascinated with the Galapagos Islands for a very long time, and I'd wanted to visit them most of my life. So one of my favorite parts of Galapagos Girl is the very beginning. So since this is a community read, I would like to read you just the beginning of my book. I wonder if I need my glasses, guys. Let's try it without. Valentina was born on an island formed by fire, surrounded by blue-green sea. Sea lions splashed their greetings, blue-footed boobies danced, iguanas saluted from a lava bridge. Welcome, Galapagos girl, they seemed to say. Bienvenida, Galapagueña, echoed Papa, Mama, and 11 brothers and sisters. On Floriana, one of many Galapagos islands, Valentina spent her days exploring. She scampered over lava rocks with Sally Lightfoot crabs. She swam with manta rays, dolphins, and here on the warm equator, a surprise. Penguins, penguinos. Now, I love that picture of Valentina with the penguins. And you may see behind me some paintings and sketches. I am very lucky because often my illustrators will send me an original piece of art. The middle one, the orange one, is actually oil painting from the Pumpkin Runner. Now it seems a lot of people are doing their colors or some of the work on the computer. So it's harder for me to get a watercolor or an oil painting. But if you look at this, the one at the bottom, that is the final sketch for that penguin illustration in the book. And we can talk more about that also. All right, now I am going to attempt to share my screen. We practiced this, and this is the long way around, but it seemed to be, oh, technical problems. It is not showing my screen here, Tabitha.
Let me see. It
And
should
it always
allow you. It should allow you to share screen.
Right, but it usually you have to choose the one and then you have to share the computer sound. How odd. We practiced this so much, kids.
Yes, we did. Let me look at this 1 second.
How strange. Everything seems to be maybe for you. Now, this will be a problem.
Yes.
We will figure it out. Now,
1 moment. Let me just click a few buttons.
I could play around, but I'm afraid I'll mess it up more. So.
All good. Let me. I'm going to make you a co-host. That might help.
All right. I will close this down.
Okay, try it now.
All right. I am trying it now to share the screen. It's not working. Everything is exactly the same. I'm not quite sure what to do as this is the main part of my talk.
Yes.
Yeah, so let's see if I actually. Deb. So you're not seeing anything now on my screen, are you?
No, I am not.
Well, guys, you can hear the scuba diver. Some way, what do you suggest we do?
I am allowing our tech person, John, to become a host so then he can work his magic.
Did you hear the scuba diver, kids?
Yes, I did.
We'll get there. Good. I keep trying. And before it showed 3 options, and I would choose the option, the desktop, and this is so strange. Thank you guys for being patient.
This happened to us a lot when we were remote learning in the spring, so we understand.
You know, sometimes you practice and still things don't go quite as you expected. Yeah,
Marsha, you should be able to do this now. You should be able to share your screen now.
let me see. Well, it's not giving me the option like we did before. So if I click share screen and I click basics, I can see the share computer sound, but there's nothing that's really, I'll go ahead and click it.
Mm-hmm.
But do you see anything but me?
No. So you're trying to share your screen right now?
Yes, and when we practiced, Kaylee and I practiced several times, it would, if I hit share screen, you would go and it would pop up and I had 3 options. I would hit the desktop because that's how it was working for us best. And go, there we would go. It is blank now. I wonder, do you think if we all left and came back, anything would happen?
I think if you wanted to rejoin, that could work as well, but you should be able to share your screen when you click on the share screen button, and then when you're presented with the options, you should see your monitor there. You don't see anything on your screen right now when you click on?
Oh, it just came up.
Yep, and then make sure you click on share computer sound, and
Yes,
optimize screen for video clips, and then click share at that point.
it miraculously came up. Let me click
There
it
we
now.
go. We got this now. It's working.
We got this, guys.
Hey, good job.
All right, now let's see if the sound is working for us. Yay! There's our sea lion, finally. We waited for you. Waited and waited. So I think that's me with the sea lion. Now, because you waited so long, let me show you a second sea lion. And I'd like you to watch this sea lion as it twirls in the water. I use the word pirouette. It's almost like a ballet. It will swim upside down and it'll come toward the camera. They love to tease, just as you sometimes will tease your they like to mimic people and they jokesters. For example, as a joke, if you were out on a small boat and you put your flippers, those are what the snorkelers and scuba divers wear on the feet. If you put your flippers against the side of the boat, and a sea lion might just sneak up, take a flipper, and swim off with it. That's the kind of jokes they play. But sometimes they'll just bring it back to you because they can be nice as well. So they are extremely playful. We also saw sea turtles. They are much calmer. Very calm. Sea turtles breathe air, so they have to come up to the surface so often to breath. They will see the turtle going up, and it will be oh no. Oh, yes. We swam with penguins. Now, it's really hard for me to see the children, which I don't like. I really love to see you closely. But look and see how many penguins you see in the water. And hold that in your mind. And let's see. When I first, my eyes aren't as good as they used to be. So when I first looked at this photo, I thought I saw 4. And then I realized I saw 5. And now, if the light is good, there are 6. There are the 2 in front with their white bellies. There's 1 in the distance. And then there are actually 3 beneath all the others. So there are 6 penguins. Now, penguins can be rather shy. And so they're not as playful as the sea lions. And we will return to these cute guys a little bit later. Galapagos girl, Galapagueña. This is a bilingual book. So it was written in 2 languages, Spanish and English. ¿Cuántos de ustedes hablan o leen español? Raise your hand high if you, can you speak both Spanish and English, anyone? Okay, that's okay. Yo hablo y leo un poco. That means I speak just a little, as you can probably see. I began this book 13 years ago. 13 years, that is older than most of you. And in actuality, I wanted the book to have some Spanish in it. I did not think it was going to be a bilingual book. So I sent my manuscript off with a few phrases and words from Spanish that I had worked very hard on. But then my publisher decided they wanted it to be bilingual. So almost all of my phrases and Spanish words disappeared, except for a few, which you can probably find. The Galapagos Islands are where I met Valentina Cruz. Here we are together. She was my nature guide, and she showed my traveling companions and I the unique wildlife and plants of the Galapagos. Now, Valentina was the inspiration for my main character here. And because this is a fiction book, even though it's inspired by a real person and a real place, it's fiction. So I could have chosen any name I wanted. And you really should think about choosing the right name for your book and your story. Well, I thought Valentina was the perfect name. So it's Valentina in my book as well as in real life. Valentina grew up on the wild Galapagos Islands with her mother and her father and her 11 brothers and sisters. This is Valentina. She's the little one, along with an older sister and her mother on Floriana. And here is Valentina with her father. And Valentina called him an adventurer who loved nature and books. And oh, Valentina could tell so many adventure stories about her father. When he first came to the Galapagos Islands, and he came before he was married, and then he went back and got married and brought his wife. But when he first came, there were only about 100 people. Actually, I think it was exactly 100 people on all of the Galapagos Islands, 100 and more islands. And I believe there are only about a dozen on Floriana, where he lived. Let us find the Galapagos Islands on this map. I suspect you may already know where they are, but the top arrow is Michigan, right? There by Lake Michigan and the other lakes. And if we go straight down through Central America toward South America, we would land in Ecuador, the country of Ecuador. And then if we were all going together to the Galapagos Islands, we would either get on a plane or a big ship, and we would travel 600 miles west to the Galapagos. And the Galapagos are right on the equator. The red line that you see points to the red dotted line, and that's the equator, which simply is an imaginary line that divides the northern part of the Earth and the southern, or the northern and southern hemispheres. So here we are in the Galapagos. These are the 13 major islands. Actually, it shows 14 here, Rábida, but usually it's considered 13 major islands and then hundreds more. One of these islands has a very unusual shape. And when we get to the questions and I can hear you, I want to hear what you thought it was. But do you see it? It's Isabella. The green arrow is pointing to it. And so I want you to think in your mind what that island looks like to you, and then I will tell you what I think it looks like. Okay, Isabella. I think it looks like a seahorse. Oh, raise your hand. Did anyone think it looked like a seahorse? Yeah, good. And I suspect some of you had other creative notions. If you go south, if you go down to the bottom of the slide, that's Floriana, where Valentina grew up. And right above that is the round island of Santa Cruz, which is where most of the people live. The island Baltra, it looks like it's actually touching Santa Cruz, but it's just very close to Santa Cruz. That island is where we would fly in. We flew in to Baltra. That's the easy way to do it. So we flew in from Quito, the capital of Ecuador, to Baltra. Then we got on a ferry. Sometimes they call it a water taxi, and we went across the water to Santa Cruz, where we began our adventure. Now, the Galapagos are volcanic islands, so they were all formed by volcanoes. And I'll go back to my book now because I want to share something. I know you are writers, and all writers try to use words in a lyrical manner, especially fiction writers, especially picture book writers and poets, and they try to use poetic words. So my very first line in this book is, Valentina was born on an island formed by fire. So that is my way of trying to be poetic, formed by fire. I could have written, Valentina was born on an island formed by volcanoes. But to me, that didn't sound as lyrical, as musical. So writers will always be looking for other ways to say things. So because they're volcanic, a lot of the islands are very rocky. Sometimes an island will just look like a big rock sticking out of the ocean. The first visitors to the islands were some pirates, and whalers in whaling ships. And then later came scientists like Charles Darwin. Now, over 200 years ago, about I think it was 1793, some people think, some seamen thought it would be a good idea to put up a barrel on Floriana Island, and it is now called Post Office Bay. Their idea was that when whalers went out to sea, they could leave a letter in the barrel for their family. Then if seamen were coming back and going home to Europe or the United States, they would, remember, it took months to get to sea in those days. So it had been a long time since they heard from their families. So the seamen coming back would look in the barrel and they would see if there were any letters that were close to where they lived. If so, they would take the letter and deliver it. No stamps were necessary. And everyone trusted that if you took a letter, you would get it to the person it was addressed to where it needed to be. Now, do you think that 200 years later, that if you put a letter in the barrel, by the way, I think that it's a different barrel than it was 200 years ago, but it's still a barrel. Do you think if you put a letter in there that it would get to where it needed to be? Raise your hand if you think it would get to where it needed to be. Okay. Raise your hand if it wouldn't get to where it needed to be. Yeah, that's what you'd think, right? Guess what? They do. They do get where they need to be very often. So here are my friends, and they are looking through the letters and postcards that people have left and seeing if any are near where they live so they can deliver it. And then sometimes, of course, you can put your letter or postcard in the barrel. And if everything goes well, maybe your letter will be delivered. I actually put a postcard to my brother who lives in Kansas in the middle of the United States. And several months later, it took a while, but several months later, someone knocked at my brother's door in this little town in Kansas and delivered the letter. So no stamps needed, just takes a while, but it does still happen, which is pretty amazing. That's the barrel, the current barrel behind me. I wanted to also share something interesting. People will put messages on the drift boards. You see all these little boards at the bottom. And I went to school in Kansas. I went to Kansas State University, and it's hard to see, but if you look at the board, the bottom board right in front of me, it says Kansas State University, where I went to college. So that was pretty neat to see someone from Kansas State University had been there. In the middle of the wild Galapagos Islands, who would think? So the early explorers, they called the islands Las Encantadas, the Enchanted Islands, because they thought they seemed to rise up magically from the misty waters of the mighty Pacific. So Islas Encantadas, the Enchanted Islands, Las Encantadas. And when the explorers stopped, they saw even more enchanting things, like Sally Lightfoot crabs. They are very colorful, and they seem to always be scampering between the ocean and the land. Nazca boobies. This one is looking right at me. I was quite close to it. And sometimes a chick. Now, there are 3 types of boobies on the Galapagos Islands. One more is the blue-footed booby. Yes, he seems to be completely surprised by the color of his own feet here. They are this beautiful turquoise blue. So that is an unusual thing about blue-footed boobies. And another interesting thing is that they love to dance. They have a courtship dance, and they will lift 1 foot high, then another foot high, and then raise their beak into the air. So they do enjoy the dancing. Flightless cormorants. Look at those eyes. The Galapagos flightless cormorants are the only cormorants in the world that do not fly. All the other cormorants fly. These flightless cormorants have very short wings, as you can see here. But the situation is that they really don't need to fly. You may know that there aren't that many natural predators on the island, so they didn't need to fly. They have short wings and they get along just fine. The explorers saw many, many birds, like the oyster catcher. Love that bright orange beak. And an oyster catcher chick. Galapagos hawk. Flamingos, they feed in the lagoons. I think this one was on Floriana. They feed in the lagoons near the mangrove trees. Brown pelican all around. And oh, guess what? Another booby bird. I'll bet all of you can guess what this booby bird's name is. I wish I could hear you. It is the red-footed booby. Look at those red feet. So we have the blue-footed booby, the red-footed booby, and the Nazca booby. Galapagos marine iguanas. They are everywhere. They are endemic. They are only found on the Galapagos Islands. They're endemic to the islands. I think some of them look a little bit like dragons. And they're the only lizard in the world that feeds on seaweed. Now, my granddaughter loves seaweed. I don't really care for it. I wonder if any of you like seaweed. Raise your hand if you love seaweed. Oh, yay, there are some. Well, my granddaughter and you and the marine iguanas all love seaweed. Here's a marine iguana going out to find seaweed. So some of the big iguanas will dive up to 80 feet, but that's very unusual. Most of this dive 6 feet or so, or they feed in the tide pools. When they get back from that chilly ocean, they are a little bit cold. So they do a lot of sunbathing. I love this one. They are bathing in the sun. Sometimes I like to join them. That is a lot of marine iguanas. They were everywhere on the rocks, keeping themselves warm until they needed to go back out and eat again. Galapagos tortoise. They move very slowly, as you might expect with this big shell. And I think that the fact that they move slowly and take their time might be one reason that they live so long, 150 years or longer. This guy seems to really know how to relax here. That would be nice if we all did. Oh, I took all of those pictures of the animals except for the ones you see me in and a few more. So here I am, and what do you see behind me on those rocks? Penguins, yes, indeed. Remember that we're on the equator where it's usually very warm. And most penguins are found, well, if you go to the very bottom of this slide, you'll see the Falkland Islands. And then beneath that is Antarctica, where most penguins are found. Some are found in Australia, in New Zealand, in South Africa, but no other penguin species is found as far north as the Galapagos. So it's quite unusual. You might think it's warm. What are the penguins doing there? But it's okay, because there are currents coming into the Galapagos Islands and they bring cold water. So it can be a little bit chilly in the water. And so the penguins are just fine. Now, I think what I want to tell you next is that I thought I had all of my research done. Writers do a lot of research, even writers of picture books, even if it's a much simpler picture book than this, we still do research. And I had read books, I had looked through the internet, I had done lots of virtual chats with Valentina, and we emailed back and forth. And thankfully, there are many scientists who are also very generous and shared information. So I had written a lot of back matter, which you'll find in the back of this book, about the islands and about the animals and other resources. And I thought I'd done a pretty good job. It took me a long time. But one day, just 2 weeks before the manuscript and the illustrations were going to go off to the printer, my editor decided that the information on Galapagos penguins was outdated. And I am going to find my information here, I think, because I want to be sure I get the numbers right. Maybe it's there. So she decided she needed more information. And I thought, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? It's taken me so long already to research all of this. And sometimes this kind of very specific information about animals is difficult to find. And then you may find two scientists who disagree. So I needed to be a bit of a detective. And by the way, as you probably know, since you write, sometimes we writers do need to be detectives. What would you have done? I thought, will I need to go and buy a ticket and fly to the Galapagos and count the penguins myself? That wouldn't have been very practical. And they move around a lot, so it's hard to count them. So I thought, let me just look on the internet. I found an article written by Daniel Garcia, and it was about the Galapagos in general. It didn't mention Galapagos penguin, I don't think. And I thought, well, I wonder if I could very quickly find Daniel. And so I went to Facebook, and Daniel was there. This is Daniel in the Beatles shirt. He sent me this after we met on Facebook. And I wrote Daniel, I private messaged him. I said, I'm trying to find information on the Galapagos penguin, like when the last count was. He said, let me ask Gustavo. And I thought, Gustavo? Who is Gustavo? Well, Gustavo is the man that you see behind Daniel with the headlamp. And he just also happens to be the head scientist in charge of counting Galapagos penguins. I felt so very lucky. Besides that, they had just counted the penguins the month before. And so there were 1,300 to 1,600 Galapagos penguins at that time. That was in 2017. That was 3 years ago. Actually, I'm going to show you these cute little guys. Here they are on the boat, and the scientists have brought these in to measure, make sure they're healthy, to tag them. I was wondering how many Galapagos penguins there might be now. So I went to Facebook and I found Gustavo. We had become friends on Facebook, although I've never met Daniel or Gustavo in person. And he wrote me back quite quickly and he said, we just did the count. What was the count? Oh, 1,940. They had a very precise count this time. That is almost 2,000. So 3 years ago, 2017, it was 1,500. Now it's 2,000. So that is very good news for the penguins. And that is not a lot of animals for one single species to have, but it's still enough if people like Gustavo and Daniel work toward keeping the penguins safe, and we help to keep them safe. Now, I'm going to share a video. It's a little alarming, and it might be a little loud, but this is a cute penguin video. Oh my. The scientist took this video. Daniel sent it to me. The penguin is in the little lava tube where it lives. And of course, it would be alarming to him to have them taking that image, that video. Here we go again. One more time. I love those little penguins. They are so cute. But my favorite Galapagos animal is the sea lion. I have to say it's the sea lion. Oh yes, I am fairly close here to the sea lions. The current regulation is that you should not be more than 6 feet. You need to be at least 6 feet from a wild animal in the Galapagos. Now, you might think that, well, wouldn't the wild animal run from you or be afraid of you or maybe even be aggressive and come toward you? But again, almost no natural predators. So the wild animals in the Galapagos just consider human beings another animal just walking by. And of course, the travelers who come there are very careful not to harm them. So, oh my goodness, this Galapagos mockingbird is closer than 6 feet. It is breaking the rule. It must have thought my foot was a sea lion. I don't know. I hope you're giggling a little. That's supposed to be a joke. This is a Galapagos mockingbird. There are also Floriana mockingbirds. They are very endangered. And I believe, anyway, last time I knew, they were actually not on Floriana, but on some little islands near Floriana. So, but I was 6 feet away. That's one of the fun things about going to the Galapagos, that you can be so close to the animals. I like sea lions on land or in the ocean. I like adult sea lions, although the males are a little scary. I like the sea lions jumping or lounging, and I really like those baby sea lions here. I told you what one of my favorite parts of the book was the beginning, but my very favorite words, I think, are is the last phrase, and it's "We will not forget you, and we will help to keep you safe." Now, I use that phrase several times in the book, and this is a technique that writers often use. We repeat, if it's appropriate, only if it works with the book, only if it's appropriate. We repeat a word or a phrase that helps to emphasize something, that helps to maybe emphasize the theme of the book. So we will not forget you, and we will help to keep you safe. So I won't be able to hear you, but Miss Denise, I'll be the director. Let's all say this together. We will not forget you, and we will help to keep you safe. I hope that you said that. Well, in my book, I talk about Valentina going away to a school. And she did go to Ecuador. She lived with her sister and went to school there. I believe she was about 10. I don't mention that she went to another school on the island first. And we decided we wanted to give a gift to that school. It is the smallest school in all of the Galapagos. We gave them a projector. So Valentina went with her son, who's in the blue, and her daughter, who's in the pink, and presented the projector to them. And everyone else in the picture, besides those three, are either a teacher or a student. So you can see that the whole school is not much bigger than your class. I hope that you may have had a chance to visit my website, marshadianearnold.com. Teachers, there's under activities, there's a really wonderful teacher's guide for all of for the book Galapagos Girl. And if you have visited my website, you might notice that I really like animals. And I was lucky because I did grow up on a farm surrounded by farm animals, chickens, cows, and my grandmother's farm dog here. I also loved reading about animals. My favorite books were books like Lassie Come Home and Black Gold. I read a lot when I was your age, but I never thought about writing until I was growing and had children of my own. So I am what people sometimes call a late bloomer. I did not start doing what I enjoy doing until until pretty late in life. I can't even remember now, I'm so old, in my late 30s maybe. And you all are very lucky because you are early bloomers. So if there's something you like to do, whether it's science or building or writing or drawing, if you enjoy doing it and you do it now and practice it regularly while you're your age, let's say you did enjoy writing and you wanted to be a writer. If you practiced it now, then when you're my age, you would be a much better writer than I am, and you would have lots more stories and books to share. So good for you, early bloomers. When I started writing, I was afraid I would run out of ideas. So everything I heard or said that I thought might make a book, or sometimes I would look through old magazines and tear out something that I thought would be interesting, or I took the whole magazine if nobody wanted it. You can see a napkin there. So if I was eating and I had an idea, I would scribble it down. And I had a number of these scribbles and scraps files. They're kind of fun to keep no matter what you're interested in. So today I keep most of my ideas on the computer, and I have learned that I'm not going to run out of ideas. I have hundreds of ideas, which I will never, ever get to. So you know what the most important thing about an idea is? The ideas are actually fairly easy, although sometimes to get a really unusual one, it can be tricky. But the important thing is to take that idea and then to write it so well that you will find an editor if that's what you want, and people will read your book and they'll want to reread it. This is another one of my nature guides, and he always had this notebook with him, and that's another good thing to do if you like to write or sketch. He is sketching there. I think that's a Nazca booby. And then also, if you want to write fabulous stories, it's really true. To write the fabulous stories, you read the fabulous stories. And you read wherever you are. What is this doing here? Oh, that's Valentina's father again, on a donkey. Well, he doesn't have a book here, I don't think, although those may be books in the packs. But this is a very old photo, as you can see by all the damage that's been done. But Valentina told me that her father would sometimes get on the family donkey. And oh, I think I forgot to tell you also that Valentina sometimes rode the family donkey to the school in Floriana. So this was a busy donkey. So he might go to a neighbor's or maybe to the teeny tiny town, and he would take a book and he would read the book when he was on the donkey. So he loved books almost as much as he loved nature. So read wherever you are. And all you really need when you start to write, pencil, eraser, your imagination. Actually, if you're going to just tell the story, you don't even need the pencil and eraser. You just need your amazing imagination, your mind. And it's very good to ask yourself questions as you write to form your story. So you might ask, what does your main character want in this story? What is in the way of your character getting what they want? What if this happened? What if you went down that road instead of this road? So what if questions are always very good when you are writing. Now, when I have written my story and I think, oh, this is okay, do you think I send it to an editor then? Well, you can see that I don't. I revise, I rewrite. Almost all writers will rewrite many times, 10 times, 20 times, 30 times or more, and just trying to get our story as good as it can be. When I do have my story as good as I think I could make it, I will send it to my agent. And this is Karen, my wonderful agent. We happen to be in my office of the office of my California house here. And if she likes the story, she will send it off to an editor. And before I go on to this, I want to share something that I had forgotten. Karen did not really like Galapagos Girl. Now, Karen likes almost every story I send. It's not that she didn't like it. She was afraid I would have a hard time selling it. So we'll talk more about that later. But so if the story goes to an editor, the challenge is that editors get hundreds of stories, hundreds and hundreds a year. They can only make a few into books. So it's just something that writers we must accept it. We get a lot of rejections and they never feel good, no matter how many rejections you've had. And I'm going to share with you one of my friends and mentors, the amazing Jane Yolen. Next year, she will have published her 400th book, 400 books. She still gets rejected all the time. So just be aware of that. Heart of a Tiger was my first book. It was rejected 13 times before I found an editor who loved it as much as I did. And then it went on to win awards. It won more awards than any of my other books, including the Marion Vinette Ridgway Award, which is the award for Best First Book by a New Author. You only get one chance at that. So that was pretty cool. Galapagos Girl was, as I told you, my agent wasn't sure about it. My writers group didn't think I'd ever sell it. And I know it was rejected 4 or 5 times. But it has gone on to win a number of really nice awards and honors, including the Green Prize for Sustainable Literature. And of course, the Little Reed Lakeshore 2020 Read. So my goodness, along with In the Heart of the Sea, the big Reed Lakeshore book, which I am very excited to read. I think it's really nice that both of your books this year are about the ocean. So this slide represents all those no's I got from my first book, 13 no's. And what do you see there? Right in the middle, a teeny tiny yes. I only needed that one yes to be on the way to where I wanted to be. And it is the same with each of you. There will be rejections in your life. And the important thing is to not let them get you down. Or if they get you down for a while, you pop up later and keep going on, because it does only take one yes to be on the road to where you want to be, we'll say. Sometimes writers get to meet their editor. Now, most often we don't meet our editors. We don't meet our illustrators. My son happens to live in Connecticut, so we sometimes go through New York City on our way to Connecticut. So I went to the Lee and Low offices. Lee and Low is the publisher in New York City. I met my editor, Jessica, and we went over the final art together of Galapagos Girl. So that can be great fun. I talked to you about how my words change and the story changes. I mean, the story can change a lot. You might get rid of a character, or you might change the plot a little bit. The illustrations also change. So here is a very early sketch of Galapagos Girl, and here is the illustration. I wanted to show behind me. You can kind of see, did I show you this already? Anyway, that's the illustration, the early illustration. Now you can see that in this one, this was an early sketch because she has added the fins, the snorkel, the swimming suit. There are shoes here, no shoes here. So things change quite a bit. Usually what the illustrators do is they'll make what is called a dummy when they get your manuscript, when they've decided they want to illustrate it. And that's just like 32 little boxes, and they'll make quick little sketches, and then they'll start to sketch more in more detail. Here's another early sketch from Galapagos Girl. Well, you won't see this in the book because everyone decided that this would be the better illustration. In the text, my words talk about the animals being in danger. And so we decided to use the Galapagos petrel, which are those little birds that you see there. Petrels are nesting on the ground. And so they have always had an issue of having predators attack them. So they are threatened. So we decided to use the Galapagos petrel. So we've talked about how each of you are writers and storytellers in some way. We've talked about not letting your dreams get squashed by someone rejecting you, remembering that I had 13 no's. So there were 13 editors who didn't like my story. One did. So editors, people, they have different opinions. So you keep working toward that one. I have written a little rap or chant. I'm not much of a rapper. And this is to help us all remember that we are all story magicians. Okay, Miss Denise, we're going to try to chant this. This will be very difficult since I can't hear you. And we're hundreds of miles apart and doing this virtually. So I'm going to slow the chant down. And I'm going to start by snapping my fingers, and you can start snapping if you want. If you have a hard time snapping, which I used to, then you can very softly clap your hands on your thighs. Okay. This is a call and response. So I'll say a line, then you say that same line after me. Teachers, wherever you are, I need your help. Here we go. I'm a story magician. Your turn. I play with words. I arrange them in stories so they can be heard. I'm a story magician. I imagine new worlds. I bring them to life like a shiny new pearl. I'm a story magician. I'm awake, I'm aware. I sit with my notebook, writing stories to share. How'd we do, Miss Denise? We do okay? Let's give ourselves a hand.
We did great. They did awesome with that.
Wonderful. Give yourselves a hand. Fabulous. Well, Valentina had a big adventure growing up on a wild island in the Galapagos and being around amazing, unique, one-of-a-kind animals. But you know, wherever you are, you can have adventures too, be they big adventures or little adventures, all kinds of things around you, man-made things, natural things. You might see an unusual bird or an unusual bug if you just keep your eyes open and your ears open. We can have those adventures too. And maybe someday you'll find yourself swimming with sea lions and penguins in the ocean.
Where's the sea lion?
Sea lion. We have found sea lion. Turtles.
I've got him in.
What else do you see? Penguins.
We were very excited. We were very excited about being in the water with all those amazing animals. And guess what? I am going to stop my screen share, or attempt to, and stop share. There we are. And I am so excited to have some questions from you. And we have gone a little over. I can be here however long you can be here. We did have that technical trouble at the end, at the beginning.
All right, thank you so much, Marsha. Your pictures were awesome and your stories, and the kids have a lot of connections with you as a writer, and so great advice for them, but they do have a few questions. So yeah. We're gonna start with Alexis here. Just the microphone's right there, so just speak up as loud as you
so
can.
One question that I have is, if you could go back to the book, what would you change about it?
Hi, Alexis, right?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, what would I change about it? I'm not going to tell you. Some things must be secret with writers. Maybe I might want to believe in myself more, because as I said, I started writing it 13 years ago. And I didn't go back and look, but I think I just put it aside for a while because my writers group didn't think. They said, no one knows who Valentina is. So a lot of books that are written about someone, you have to be famous. And I think who we consider normal or everyday people, they are just as interesting, sometimes more so, than famous people. So I really believed that, but I didn't believe in myself enough. So maybe that would be it. And I really wouldn't want to go back, but because I must tell you that I rewrote that story over and over again and did so much research. Yeah.
All right, go ahead, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. This is Ryder.
Ryder, hi.
Hi. What do you hope all the readers get out of your book, Galapagos Girl?
Oh, what do I hope all the readers get out of my book? You know, I think it's those words that are at the end, that we will help to keep all of the animals that we share the planet with safe and healthy. So I just hope that when readers read it, that in wherever they are, whatever they can do to help the environment, help the wildlife, that they will do it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ryder.
This is Jenna.
Hi.
Hi, Miss Jenna.
My question is, do you still have a relationship with Valentina?
Do I still have a relationship with Valentina? Oh, yes. And it is mostly on Facebook or email. But so we do chat every so often, just that way. She's very busy raising her 2 children. And she also, last I knew, she had started a new business that is actually about a tourism business. So that she and her husband will take people on visits to the Galapagos and other unusual places around the world. And of course, now with COVID-19, I'm not sure what's happening with that, but I would certainly someday like to go with her on a trip.
Thank you.
Yes.
This is Nevaeh.
Nevaeh, hi.
Hi. What is the timeline of writing a book for you?
What is the timeline? I am not as organized as some writers, and some writers will say, okay, I'm going to write a novel in a year and do it. And I'm a little scattered as a person. I have lots of things I'm interested in. And so it varies. It really does vary. Once my editor asked me to write, she said, not my editor, my agent said, there's an editor looking for this type of a picture book. Can you try it? And so I did, and it was a nice story. I wrote it in less than a month. It never did sell, although some editors liked it. It just wasn't strong enough. The Pumpkin Runner, which was also about a real man and a real person, I wrote in 6 months. So you'd think I could do that for Galapagos Girl, which is also a real person and a real thing. But with Galapagos Girl, Valentina had so many stories. It was really hard to go through all of them and decide which I wanted to share in this particular picture book. I will sometimes work on stories for years, and that's because I don't know what to do with it. It's just not working, and I will set it aside. And then weeks, months, years go back to it. But if I really set my mind to it and it's not too challenging for me, I can do it in a few months.
Thank you.
That was a long answer.
It's okay.
And everyone is different. Every writer is different. It takes as long as it takes.
This is Sylvia.
Hello.
Did your experience want you to help the animals where you live?
Oh, did that experience want me to help the animals near where I live? Well, possibly not, because I've always been that person who wanted to help the animals. So I've always been involved in defenders of wildlife and trying to do what I could to protect the wolves. I love wolves, wild wolves. And so I'm sure that it probably just cemented my desire to help the wildlife. And of course, the wildlife where you are is where you should focus on. So I have bird feeders. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or not, actually. I have bird feeders in California. I had barn owl nest that we could watch the barn owls flying and raising their chicks. So I've always enjoyed it. And I'm sure it just cemented that feeling. I wanted very much to give something to Valentina's school and also to the Charles Darwin Foundation that helps protect the animals. And so I did give some of what I was paid to the Charles Darwin Foundation also.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead. This is Derek.
Hi, Derek.
Were you planning on meeting Valentina, or was it just a coincidence?
No, we did not. It was a coincidence, a wonderful coincidence. We did not know who our nature guides would be. And I might share this if we have time, Miss Denise. I know I answer my questions long.
Oh, no, you're fine.
In the dedication, it will say, for Valentina Cruz Bedan, who taught me there, and Jean Gallagher, who took me there. So Jean Gallagher is a dear, dear friend who taught my husband and I to scuba dive. She and her husband used to have a scuba diving shop in California. And her husband had been to the Galapagos so many times he didn't want to go, but she wanted to go. And so she invited me. And so I went with Jean to the Galapagos. We were also very lucky. It was also a coincidence that the boat only had 8 of us on it. And we didn't know who the guides would be. So boy, was I lucky to have Valentina. She was working as a naturalist guide. And it was actually, it may have been a year or more before I got up the nerve to write Valentina back and ask her if she would help me with this story and that she would share more of her stories. So yeah, that was how it happened.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, this is Jackson.
Hi.
Tell us about your research process.
The research process. Oh, I'm such a bad writer to ask about processes because I don't have many. The first thing I do when I research is I will read about the subject. I'll show you this because I do want to write a story about the 2024 solar eclipse. You guys know about solar eclipses and total solar eclipses like this. I have seen 2 total solar eclipses, and they're just magnificent parts of nature. So this book is one I should be working on now because it does take, if I did find an editor for it, it would take a good 2 years to get it published. So I need to start thinking about it now. So I have started. I, first of all, got all the picture books I could find on solar eclipses. And now I'm going to read this one, Totality, which is a big, thick book. So I have to do that. After or during that time, I will probably be looking for things on the internet. And a lot of this is just background information. I take notes while I'm doing the research. And if it's a book, I may put a page number. I'll put the page number and what the name of the book is. So if I want to go back, but it's just to have all of that information in the back of my mind. And then if I find something that I think that really should be in the book, then I'll make a little star or something. And I go from there. And do I start writing? When do I start writing? I do have a very rough first draft of this eclipse book, and it is meant to be a picture book. But some writers will do their research first and then start writing. A lot of them will start writing, and then as they write, they will do more and more research. Hope that answered it. What good questions these are. My goodness.
We had a Jamboard session where we all typed questions the other day, and they came up with some really good ones. This is Sophia.
Hi, Sophia.
Do you know anyone else similar to Valentina?
Do I know anyone else similar to, I didn't get that last part.
Like the same personality.
As Valentina.
With the same personality I have? Oh my, what an interesting question. Well, my husband would say there is no one with my personality. He thinks I'm a little kooky. But you know what? Some of the writers I know, I think, are similar to me. People who love nature are similar to me. Um, a lot of writers actually are quite shy and introverted and would just like to be in their little room writing away. Uh, and then people who are interested in nature, I love to be around them, because if I were just at a party and started talking about what I was interested in, people usually just move away. Like, I have stories about black-footed ferrets that you wouldn't believe. And when everybody was thinking that they were extinct, my husband and I saw a black-footed ferret, and we have verification that we did. So I'll start talking about black-footed ferrets in Western Kansas and all of that. And I can do that with people who love nature. But a lot of people, they aren't interested. What an interesting question that is. Thank you.
Thank you.
We just have a few more, if that's okay.
Oh, absolutely.
This is Connor.
Hi, Connor. Hi.
Do you plan on visiting any of the other islands?
Oh, you know, I was on Floriana. I honestly can't remember now, but we did visit a number of the islands. We visited the ones that were most interesting, because so many of them, they don't have people, they don't have much except birds. Birds can always be on the islands. I would love to go back to the Galapagos Islands and visit more. A lot of exciting things are happening. Some of the animals that some of the tortoises, now I won't be able to remember because I am old and I have a bad memory, but some of the tortoises, they were like, a number of the tortoise species are extinct, but if you've ever heard of a tortoise called Lonesome George, I think he passed away in 2012. He was supposedly the last surviving member of his species, Lonesome George. And he never did reproduce with a female tortoise of another species. So they thought that was the end of that particular species. But they have found now other tortoises with that gene. So even though it's not a full, and I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of the species, even though that it's not a full gene, whatever you say, there's another tortoise that has that gene in it. So it may not be the actual end of a species. The same with, and I think this is in my picture book actually, they found Floriana tortoises were supposed to be extinct, but on wolf, they found some that have the gene, and they're trying to breed those islands. And they actually have, I think, started to bring Floriana tortoises back to Floriana. And this will help the whole ecosystem and the island be much healthier. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
More than you wanted to know.
All right, and this is Aurora.
Hi, Aurora.
How many people help you write a book?
How many people help me write a book? Well, let's see. You know, mostly it's very solitary. And I think that's the best way to write a book, by yourself, because I think each of us is very, very interesting. But when I have a story done and I think it's ready, I do have two writers group. I used to have this great writers group in San Francisco. We called ourselves the Cliffhangers. But when I moved from California, I couldn't see them anymore. So I have online writers groups, and we send our stories to each other and we make suggestions. So I have 4 in one group. No, there are 4 of us, and then 3 in the other. So that's 3, 4, 5 other writers that look at my story, see how I can make it stronger, see if something really isn't working. So those people, I would have to say, in a way, help me write the story. But of course, it's your main idea. After that, I send it to my agent. Some agents give lots of suggestions for your story. My agent doesn't. If she likes my story, she just sends it out. and then there's the editor. For Galapagos Girl, I will have to say, some of the editors I send my story to, there's almost no changes with my story. With my editor, Jessica, she made a lot of suggestions to make the story stronger. So she did. And then there's the art director that works with the illustrator. And is that what you meant, Aurora?
Yes.
Yes.
I hope that's what you meant.
All right. Thank you.
You have the story inside of you. So remember that you're the most important storyteller.
All right, this is Ariana.
Hi, Ariana.
Hello. What's the most frustrating part about writing a book?
What is the most frustrating part about writing a book? Oh my goodness. It's, for me, I would have to say it's finding the time. I'm not very dedicated that way with saying, I'm going to write for 3 hours today from 8 to 11. So finding the time, you'd think that the rejections would be, but if you've written a book that you really think is wonderful and your agent really likes, then you just keep sending it out, and you believe that you may find the right editor. Sometimes it happens that a writer will say, nobody's taken this story now, and it's happened to me. They'll put it aside, and years later they'll take it out, they'll look at it again, maybe make a few changes, maybe not, send it out again, and it sells. Actually, that just happened with my book, that the last book I sold, Armando's Island is the name, that I couldn't sell it the first time around. I had 2 offers this time, which was just a year ago.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And this is our last question from Julia.
Hi, Julia.
You saw a lot of animals there. What was the most exciting and interesting animal you saw?
The most exciting and interesting animal I saw. So difficult. I would say the most exciting has to be the sea lions, because we were in the water with the sea lions for 20 minutes to half an hour, and they were just playing with us the whole time. If we would jump up, they would jump up, then they would circle around and go off and come back. So I would have to say that most exciting time was the sea lions. And then you said the most exciting and interesting, right?
Yeah.
You said interesting. And for interesting, I think I'd have to say the marine iguanas, the Galapagos marine iguanas. It was just, they were just fascinating. They just covered the rocks and were very stoic. So thank you for that question. Thank you all for your great questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Marsha, for talking with us. The kids really took a lot of notes, and I'm anxious to see the things that they learned from you. So thank you again.
You too. Please feel free to share. Thank you all. Thank you. So I think I'm supposed to just leave you now, right?
I just wanted to say thank you so much. Even throughout this entire video, I learned so much about animals and such great questions and just the whole writing process. It was pretty great to like hear and learn, and I took a lot of notes too. So I'm excited to see what everyone else had learned. Oh, thank you so much.
Wonderful, Miss Tabitha. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, all. Enjoy.
Bye, thank you guys.
Enjoy Little Reed Lakeshore. All the best.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful rest of your day, guys.